Good evening. On behalf of Sisters for Sisters, Inc., and these amazing, dynamic women who definitely have played a major part in helping women to be free from domestic and sexual violence, I am delighted to welcome you all tonight. Thank you so much, Sister Vicki Evans, our moderator, as well as our panelists who will be joining us tonight to share how to be free, strategies and solutions, and their stories. So, again, welcome. We're very grateful to have you all and so thankful for these survivors who have a story to share. God bless you. Sister Vicky.
Hello, everyone. Welcome tonight to Love Talk. My name is Vicki Evans. I am so excited about tonight. I am so excited to be pretty much your moderator. Call me your Oprah if you want. But I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a child witness survivor of domestic violence, and I have the unique privilege of being in a very unique position. I showcase domestic violence through the performing arts. And I have a very excellent play called A Change is Gonna Come that deals with spousal abuse in the church. And so that is a huge part, probably a dark part that a lot of people don't want to talk about. But tonight we're going to have a conversation. Can we say that? We're going to have a conversation.
Come on now.
Yes, with some very powerful women who have insight, who have expertise. We just got it going on. And so what we want to talk about tonight, we want to empower you. We want to inspire you. We want to equip you with tools. If you are a victim, if you are a bystander, whatever your position, if you're an advocate, whatever your position is tonight, we want to be able to serve you and give you tools. The name of the session tonight is Love Talk, and that's leaving out violence every day. Don't we wish we can accomplish that? Leave it out every single day of the week. And so I am grateful also for Sisters4Sisters who have been they have been a presence in the community. They have been an advocate, a voice to end domestic violence for so very long. I now live in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, but I started out in the DMV, and everybody know what the DMV is. Yes, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So I'm not a stranger to the area. And so we just want to just thank our host tonight, Ms. Carolyn Washington, for giving us this platform. So in a minute, I'm going to introduce some powerful women to you, and they're going to come and tell you who they are and just their position that they occupy and what they do. But before I do that, give me a moment. I want to just share some stats with you. If you're on tonight and you're just like, I'm not really familiar with the national stats, or you just want to inquire or learn more, I want to start off with that before I introduce the ladies. Okay, is that all right? So I want you to know that on average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. During 1 year, this equates to more than 10 million women and men. That's quite a bit. Also, and most people do know this, 1 in 4 women, and the other startling fact is 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner contact sexual violence, and or intimate partner stalking with impacts such as injury, fearfulness, post-traumatic stress disorder, use of victim services, and sexual transmitted disease. That's a lot. That's a lot. When we talk about domestic violence, it's just so complex because it covers so many different aspects. All right. And also, 1 in 3 women, 1 in 3, 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. And I think the key word in all of this is intimate partner. That is the key words. All right. And this includes a range of behaviors. We know the physical side, but there's also emotional side. There's sexual, there's financial, there's all different types of domestic violence. Just a few more, and then we're going to move on. 1 in 7 women and 1 in 25 men have been injured by an intimate partner. Okay. 1 in 10 women have been raped by an intimate partner. And there's no data available for the male. All right. So there's a lot when we talk about domestic violence. Women between the ages of 18 to 24 are most commonly abused by an intimate partner. And this statistics I want to say because it affects me. 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence each year. And 90% of those children are eyewitnesses to this violence. So I'm a child witness of domestic violence. My mother, my dear mother who went home to be with the Lord this year, suffered through that so many years. And I, as an only child, was part of that 90% that witnessed it. And for our community, it was very complex because it was like, you got to be quiet. What goes on in this house stays in this house. So we want to talk about some things. We want to break some myths tonight. We want to provide some resources. These are all the things that we want to do tonight. So I want to start off by introducing you to, so like I said, some very powerful women. I'm just going to call their name and I'm going to let them take it from there. They're going to tell you who they are, their position, what they do, and then we'll go from there and we'll answer some questions. So I'm going to start off with Miss Yolanda Jennings. She's a certified domestic violence advocate. Now you take it from here. I'm passing the mic.
Thank you so much, Vicki. I appreciate you. My name is Yolanda Jennings. I currently live in Philadelphia, PA. I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio, and I am a survivor. I often ask God, why did I survive? Unfortunately, my biological sister, my only biological sister, was murdered by her fiance back in 2004. And in 2019, my cousin was also murdered by her children's father. By her fiance. Pardon me? 2004. And in 2019, my cousin was also. Okay, hold. It's a feedback. Okay. All right, can y'all hear me? All right. And so my sister's name was Talitha Jennings, and my cousin, her name was Daniqua Bankston. And so I started doing domestic violence. I made a promise when my sister was murdered that I would do this work, and life happened. But the past 10 years, I have been really working, doing domestic violence awareness. Currently, I'm on the board of directors of an organization called Purple House Project PA out of Philadelphia. We cover Delaware County and Philadelphia counties, and we are a small nonprofit. And also, I just recently was named the Philadelphia chapter coordinator of a national organization called Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. Um, and I'm so excited just to have the opportunity to be able to represent people who may not have that voice. We say at CSSJ, when survivors speak, change happens. And so I'm so excited about this opportunity. And I thank God for Miss Carolyn. I also, she was one of the first organizations that gave me the opportunity to be an ambassador for Handbags of Hope across America. I also will try to help her with Let the Church Say Amen. So me and Miss Carolyn going back a few years. And so I'm so thankful for her. The crazy thing is we have never met in person, but I love her to death, and it's such a love between us. And I'm thankful for this opportunity to be able to share.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. Thank you. And we will hear a little bit more from her a little bit later. But now I'm going to pass the mic to Lisa Council.
Good evening. Good evening. Oh, my apologies.
She is the author of I Am Linda's Voice. She is a domestic violence advocate and the host of Shift Podcast. Go ahead, Lisa, I'm sorry.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I am truly honored and humbled to be here alongside of my sisters this evening for this very important topic. My name is Lisa Council. I am a survivor of all of the tags of domestic violence. And I also lost my only sister in 1993 to domestic violence. She was brutally murdered by her husband for taking her voice back. She was the mother of two beautiful daughters. At the time, they were 8 and 3 years old. She was shot in the head 4 times at close range. She was stabbed over 34 times, and her skull was completely crushed. I made a promise to my nieces when they were very young that I would always be their mother's voice. And that took me over 20 plus years to do, because I wanted to do it my way, and I didn't want to do it God's way. But when I gave up and just handed it over to God, He orchestrated everything so beautifully, meaning removing whoever was a part of my life that did not need to be on the journey and calling with me, as well as replacing those individuals with the people who were supposed to be a part of my life. God continues to just blow my mind throughout this journey. Why I've only been advocating and an activist for about 7 years now. I have just been tremendously blessed to be able to share my story throughout the DCPS public school system, in churches, internationally. I have also, with a few of my sisters, we were the winner of the 2017 Black Film Festival for a story we did called Survivor's Story. I've also been able to share my sister's testimony with the U.S. House of Representatives, Congress, the Senate. I was also just this year invited by the president for the official signing for the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act as a part of the Everytown Survivor Fellow Program, where we advocate for gun violence. And of course, mine would be through domestic violence. I'm just grateful to God for Dr. Kerlin White Washington, who's played such a major part in my journey. Just always lifting me up, inspiring me, being there whenever I just need words of, comfort. And so I'm just grateful to be on this panel tonight with each of you. And I'm truly grateful for all that you do to make the world a better place.
That is awesome. We're so glad to have you tonight. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Okay, I want to ask the question because it came up. I have a stat here. It says that 19% of domestic violence involves a weapon. So I want if any of you can chime in. What do you think about the gun laws that we have right now, or the lack thereof, and how that relates to domestic violence? Anybody could jump in.
Well, I will say that I think we're on the right track now with the gun laws being looked at and changed through the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. I mean, it's just a first step. It isn't going to happen overnight, but I think with that, we're on the right track. We also now have, you know, red flag laws in some states where if an individual feels as though they're a victim of a gun, and if the assailant has a gun in the household, then the police will step in, remove the firearm for I don't know how much time, but to make an individual safe. But also we have a long way to go. When we turn on the news, that's all we see, that's all we hear. But it's just going to take each of us. It's going to take each and every one of us to put our foot to the pedal and continue to put pressure on our lawmakers to do something about the guns within our communities. Unfortunately, in the African American community, we deal with ghost guns where they can't be tracked. So we have a long way to go. We're getting there, but we still have a long way to go.
Okay. Anyone else?
I would like to jump in. And I kind of come from a different side because some of the things that I've seen is that even though some of these things have been put in place, such as the police taking away the guns, the reality is that the police departments are very taxed at this time. It's so much, especially like here in the city of Philadelphia, where the murders are just back to back to back to back. And the reality is, them going to get a gun from those people is not on the top priority of their list. And that's the real thing. And so we have to, and so I really know that this is a true statistic because as I said, my cousin was murdered with a gun. And the reality is, a lot of these, even though we have these laws, we all know that the NRA and all these organizations, they really pushing. So what we need to do, we have to get out and vote. We have to make sure that our voices are heard, and we have to get out here and vote. Every single person's, your voice matters. And so we need to get out here and vote in the right people who will put pressure to make these police departments, make these guns, taking these guns off the streets, a real priority.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. All right, I have a different question, and anyone can jump in with this too. Oftentimes in a domestic violence situation, bystanders take the position, well, it's not my business, that's their problem. I don't want to get involved because it's not me. It has something to do with their relationship. What do you think we can do as a community or as advocates to educate them that domestic violence is everybody's problem, not just that one person's problem, because it affects everyone? So anyone can jump in.
Well, I'll jump in. I think that as an advocate, we need to do more in the community. It's wonderful that they have dedicated October for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but we know domestic violence goes on January through December. And so October is 31 days is just not enough in order to get the word out. wear the t-shirt, talk about it in the hair salon, at the nail salon, because I guarantee you, when you start having conversations like this, there's going to be someone else that chimes in, whether it be a man, a woman, or even if someone is just listening. I think that if we just put it out in the community a little bit more, go to our schools and if we don't teach the children what healthy relationships look like and what boundaries are. I mean, these teachers are teaching our kids how to put on condoms, but nobody's teaching our kids about healthy relationships. They're not seeing it in the home. They're not seeing it in the community. It's not talked about in the churches. Let's just keep it real. Pastors are not standing up in the pulpit and talking about domestic violence. I'm not going to say all pastors, but majority of pastors are not talking about it in the church house. We're not talking about it in our house other than the advocate. So how is the community educated on domestic violence? Why would they want to tell somebody? As we just talked about, most of the times what people and these kids are taught is what goes on in this house stays in this house.
Exactly.
And they're experiencing a lot, and it might not be happening to them, but they're dealing with all this emotional trauma and they don't have a release. And so they don't feel comfortable talking to the counselors. Back when I was going to school, we used to go to the auditorium and have monthly meetings. Where is that going on in the schools where the children are taught about? They'll talk about it when somebody is bullying them, or if there's a gun being in the school, the school's going to be shut down because there's someone harming them. But when is it being talked about? When are no celebrities are talking about it? Let Cardi B or I don't know, Jay-Z or somebody start talking about domestic violence, and people gonna start listening. But how does the regular people, how do we get it out? The news isn't talking about it. We're not are we inviting the news to our events? Are we sharing our programs? And who knows? We know because we know each other. A lot of us on this line have participated in different domestic violence events. But outside of us and those listening in on Facebook, we got to share it. We as the ladies on this line, we got to keep sharing it. But when is all of the community going to get it? When is it going to be something on the buses or a big old poster up so that somebody can say, love hurts and let's talk about it? I mean, Carolyn has been doing a fantastic job for over 25 years, but we need more Carolyns, and all of us, just what we're doing tonight, we got to do more of it in November and in December, because we know that the holiday time is when domestic violence is at its peak, right? At holiday time. The pandemic brought a lot of domestic violence out, and a lot of people started talking about it more because they were confined with their abuser, alone, and it got worse. And so people started talking about it more. But us, and I love, Lisa, you're going out and you're getting in front of Congress. We got to make sure these laws change. Vote, absolutely, but we got to go and do a march. We got to get in front of the congressmen and change laws, because that's why this is still going on. There are no real laws in place. It takes so much for a woman or a man to get a protective order. They have to jump. I'm saying we, because I had to do it. You have to jump through hoops just to get a protective order now.
Mm-hmm.
So April, two things. First of all, I want you to tell who you are in a minute, because I didn't introduce you. So tell the people who you are. Second, you brought up healthy relation. I need you to find that. What is a healthy relationship? And you covered a lot of things. You talked about the school got to get involved, protective orders, the law enforcement, all these people. So it's going to take a collaboration of people in order for this, what we're talking about, to work. Because if we just have all advocates, that's the only people who are involved, and these other components are not dealt with, then we'll be right back where we are next October, advocates talking about it, people talking about it, but that's all it will be, is talk. So we got to find a mechanism in order to join all these forces, the law enforcement, the schools, the parent, everybody got to get involved. So April, tell who you are and explain what a healthy relationship is, because I didn't know what a healthy relationship is. I only knew what I saw in my household, and that's how I define relationship. So take it away.
All right. Well, good evening, beautiful ladies. I am April Chambers. I am the founder and CEO of Angels Haven. I am a small nonprofit organization, and I don't call myself a survivor. I'm a conqueror. I didn't just survive domestic violence. I conquered domestic violence. And I am been out 20 years now, and I am a voice to those who are suffering in silence. And I pray to God that if he got me out alive, that I promised him that I would be a voice to those suffering in silence. I too didn't know what a healthy relationship was. I didn't know what boundaries was, but I thank God that I was in a zero tolerance for domestic violence church. And my pastor at the time, Henry Rex Cole, appointed me the ministry leader of our domestic violence ministry. And from that point on, I was kind of pushed out to be an advocate, because I didn't even know I was in domestic violence. I thought that was just love. I thought that's what love was. And I had to unthink and unlearn what I thought love was, based on my past, based on a 15-year marriage of settling. You know, they say if you do better when you know better. I didn't know better. And
Right.
there wasn't, when I first entered domestic violence in my early 20s, I didn't know Carolyn existed. I didn't know about the hotline. I didn't know that I could call 1-800-799-SAFE and somebody could help me and walk me through. I didn't know that there was a support group. I offer a support group once a month, every last Saturday of each month. It's on Zoom. And so we just like this, a group of ladies and men, because as we know, it is just not women going through domestic violence. More men are being abused these days. And we're not talking about physical. We know, because we're advocates, domestic violence is not just physical. It's verbal, it's emotional, it's sexual. No is no, even when you're married. And so men are speaking up. I'm having a prayer breakfast, a brunch, a Sunday brunch next Sunday. And I have a gentleman who suffered domestic violence for many years. And he's going to give his testimony. It's horrific. It's more horrific than what I went through. And I'm like, ooh. And so I applaud him as a man stepping forward to talk about domestic violence. So that's who I am. I'm just April. I'm just a grandma out here trying to help somebody else not go through. If I can just help one, not go through 1 second of what I went through. If it's just one, that's my purpose. And I said when I was going to turn 60, I'm going to write a book called Pain for My Purpose for My Pain. So there was a purpose for my pain. And I understand that now, 20 years later. And so a healthy relationship is, it's my definition. It's not Webster's, it's not Google's, it's my definition. A healthy relationship is a relationship where you have set boundaries, where you love yourself, number one, and you put God first.
So two people have to bring a balance too. So one person can't be verbally abusing the other one. That's not healthy, right? Physical, that's not healthy. And as you or someone said earlier, love should not and does not hurt, right? So
and all the aspects of what the biblical sense of definition of love. Love doesn't boast. Love is kind. Love is patient. Love keeps no record of wrong. So to me, that's what a healthy relationship is. All the definitions of love. What you said out earlier, leave out violence every day. That's a healthy relationship. And communication, just being open and honest to be able to talk about hurt feelings. and instead of hiding it and letting things build up. You got to learn how to have a healthy relationship. First of all, you got to learn how to communicate. You got to learn how to set boundaries. And I don't think we as women have been taught how to set boundaries and how to say no, how to walk away. We don't learn that. We don't learn that until something happens. And as I said a little bit earlier, if we can start teaching our children what boundaries are and healthy relationships as children, then they won't grow up to be adults still trying to figure out how to get out of this situation. We're not teaching our children that. And mainly because we hadn't been taught that.
Mhm.
And it has to start somewhere, and it starts with us.
Right.
Okay, what can we do in our communities to get our city governments, our counties? What can we do to spread the word about domestic violence and get them involved? Because you already said that we need the schools on board. We need the county. We need every aspect. What can we do as advocates to do that? Anybody jump in?
I would like to jump in on that and
Yes, ma'am.
piggyback on what Sister April just mentioned too, is starting at home. But more importantly, we have to also understand and be transparent and open with oftentimes for those of us who have been the victims of domestic violence, that first boyfriend or husband wasn't our first abuser. The abuse started at home, unconsciously. Some of us don't even know or are aware that we're suffering from trauma, from PTSD. Abuse in some households is just normal. And just like some have an addiction to drugs, gambling, whatever it may be, some of us have an unconscious addiction to domestic violence. Also, if we want to do something to further help our communities, we as advocates as well have to know when to set boundaries. And by saying that, I mean, when do we help? Because by helping, you may be pushing an abuser further to do something heinous to, their victim, that man and or woman. We may not be able to, interject and call the police because you may be putting the victim in further danger. We have to start at home in healthy homes. We also have to start in our schools with our kids. When we go out into the school systems, it's normally in senior high. Sorry, it's too late. We have to start in elementary school. We also, as advocates and working with our community leaders and with our police departments, our lawmakers, and I just have to be very honest and frank here. The yearly meetings that we do, that just isn't enough. We have the red flag conference, we have this conference, we have this luncheon, that luncheon, but we're not really getting into the nuts and bolts of things. We just aren't. We're not. It's wonderful to come together and have a luncheon or a brunch in the conference and say, hey, we've done something, but seriously, where's the funding really going? Where is it really going? What is anyone really doing? It's oftentimes our community leaders and the lawmakers, they think, oh, so we've done something and it's great now. Or October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but domestic violence is every day, not just October. So we go to church on what Sunday of the month is it with purple on. But we still have pastors saying, go home and forgive your husband or forgive your wife. And that victim just may very well not wake up the next morning. We have to educate our churches. We have we have to educate our leaders. They can't really relate if they haven't gone through it themselves.
Good point. So let's go there. Let's go with the church because you took it there. Let's go to the church.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Can I just say one thing? because you asked about what the community can do.
Oh, go
Mhm.
ahead. I'm sorry.
I really want to say something about that.
Go ahead.
And
Go
that's
ahead.
why I'm very excited about being a part of. We have to provide places where survivors can be safe, where they feel safe that they can share their voices. One of the great things about Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, which is a 100,000 strong organization around the country, is that we put survivors' voices ahead. Survivors are actually going to the state and federal houses and speaking with state representatives and telling their stories. We do monthly, every month, we have healing events. We are constantly being trained to be leaders and how to go into these arenas where we might not have the know the knowledge or the correct words to say, and we're being taught how to do that. And so those are the things that we have to do. We have to empower our survivors to be advocates for themselves. We are not just advocates, but all survivors should be able to be empowered to be able to advocate for themselves. When we are come together as a large voice, they have to listen. They have to listen. And those are the things that we have to do.
And
So I want to bring up 2 points here. And Shirley made she made this point. She wrote it down. So 2 points. In order to help a victim, they have to want help. Is that correct? They have to. So if you see them and maybe they have physical scars, but they're not ready to come out, what can you do?
You give them,
because they have to want help first, right? Let's go. Let's talk about
You give them grace. You give them grace because oftentimes we know, I'll just be transparent. There were numerous times I called on God to save me when I knew I was going right back. I wanted to be saved at that time. So we have to give them grace. We really do. And we have to be there for them without judgment, but just a listening ear, a sounding board. And if you feel like it's getting to the point where it's just affecting you personally, just let them know I'm here for you. And also let them know how it makes you feel. But we all know tonight here on this panel that oftentimes a victim goes back to their abuser at least 7 times. And if they don't go back to that one, they're going to another one.
Right.
Oh, he doesn't beat me. So, he just talks to me bad. So I'm great.
And so I want to just piggyback on what Yolanda was saying to your initial question. What we can do in the community is, this is election time. So we need to start writing our senators and our congressmen and our president, write these letters before November 4th, before we get out here and vote. Write to your channel, your news channels. Let them know what's going on in the community. If you want to use October, but let them know that this is an epidemic that started long before the pandemic. And if the news, if our congressmen and our senators and these elected officials don't start making the change, then all we're going to be doing is us advocates are talking. It has to get out in the community. There has to be a way that people know what it is. A lot of women and men are being abused because, as I said earlier, they don't know they're being abused and they don't have a way out. Most women, I'm speaking about women now, are staying because they don't have anywhere to go. I was one of them. I felt like I didn't have anywhere to go. I had a son and I had a daughter. Well, if I go into a shelter, most shelters are not taking males if it's a woman's shelter. So where is a woman going? Where are you going? There's nothing out in place other than if they know Vicky, or if they know Yolanda, if they know Mary, if they know Wendy, if they know Robin, then they can call Robin, they can call Vicky. But what if they don't know anybody? And it's not being talked about. No one knows that where to go if something happens. If I'm in domestic violence, Where am I going if he's controlling my money?
Mhm.
Where is he going if he's taking the car key? How am I getting around? I can't even get in an Uber because he's taking my phone. So how are we educating the community? How are people, what do people know? But the news got to start talking about it. Commercials, these celebrities, the Congress, and something has to be in place other than, as we were just saying, advocates going out doing our part at meetings that we only know about. Does the community know what's going on? But they listening to the radio, right? They're watching TV, they're watching Lifetime. But nobody outside of this month and the things that we're personally doing, how is the community understanding it? How do they know about it? We got to start writing the radio station, hey, can you talk about this? If we write enough letters and get in front of these people, they're going to get tired of hearing us say domestic violence and they're going to start talking about it. That's just my opinion.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to chime in before I go to the next point?
Yes, this is Robin S.B. Harlan. How y'all doing?
Hi, Robin.
Hey, I have my own nonprofit entitled Mended Wings, and I haven't done a whole lot, clearly not as much as I like to do, because I'm so busy with work. And like several have mentioned, I do a program every year. The last two have been virtual, but it is about just getting the word out. It really is. I mean, because so many people, like some of the other ladies have already mentioned, people don't even realize that they're being abused sometimes. They be like, oh, he just crazy, or, just kind of play it off, like it's really not that big of a deal. Your children are witnessing this, grandchildren are witnessing this. So sometimes these things are generational, and people don't even realize the effect that it's having. I myself am also a conqueror, and I remember specifically asking my son, I'm gonna turn my camera back on, I was eating. I was specifically asking my son when I was going through that situation, well, Sean, what happened? You used to do so well in school. Now, the guy that I was dating at the time didn't abuse them, but clearly they were witnessing my abuse. And what he said to me was, well, I used to do well in school until my life turned into a battlefield. And that was just kind of like a gut punch for me, because I didn't realize until he made that statement the effect that it was actually having on my son. They were young, so it wasn't like they could beat him up, or it wasn't like they could actually do anything. And so what I got from that, like April, I was like, well, Lord, I know that I didn't go through this just for me. It wasn't just about me. My friend, one of my closest friends, lost her son, her only child, to domestic violence. He was trying to break up a fight of a couple he didn't even know these people. But he saw the guy beating up the young lady. He walks up to him like, hey man, stop, fighting the young lady or whatever. So guy walks away, he thinking everything is cool. The guy comes back and stabs him with an 8-inch knife in his jugular vein. He dies. And another friend of mine from elementary school, her husband stabbed her 26 times. She died. So based on the fact that I lived, I felt like, okay, God, you want me to do something. And so that's how Mended Wings was birthed out of my experience and those two experiences. But we have to let it be known. That's what I want to do when I retire in like 2 years. I actually want to start in middle school though. I like to go into the middle schools and start talking about healthy relationships, start talking about boundaries. Because I see these little kids, 12 and 13 at the bus stop, they punching, the boy running, the girl running, she running behind him, punching him in the back. I'll pull my car over in a New York minute, be like, what y'all doing? My husband's swearing down, somebody gonna kill me. I'll be like, okay, that's cool. That's my day to die. But I'm gonna say something to these kids. I do, because they don't get it. They don't. So
but you bring up a good point, because we've been socialized differently. We have been socialized, especially the boys. That's how they fought and played tag. And so then the girl, so we've been socialized, and the girls, we had tea parties. And so when the little guys get with the girls, they don't know they ain't supposed to hit. They've been hitting all their life.
Exactly.
So I mean, we're gonna have to teach differently. We're gonna have to do differently. And we have to be able to, first of all, we got school officials. They have to be willing to allow us to come in to do
Yes.
these things.
Yes.
So
Yes.
all of that has to come into play before we actually, it sounds good, but there are so many layers in how to accomplish that.
Yes.
So one
Yes.
other thing before you go, Robin, you talked about the young man who intervened. Just in your opinion, how should he have handled that? Because there is a way. Instead of going directly in, how else could he have handled that?
He clearly should have called the police, but he was witnessing this. The guy was actually punching on this girl, and he felt like, okay, you know, as a man, let me just step to him, and it cost him his life. It cost him his life, but even sad, was even really sad. Yes, he lost his life. Just so happened I wasn't in court that day. I was going to court with my dear friend. That day I couldn't make it. But this girl sat in front of in the courtroom and had the nerve to say, and my friend was there, who lost her only child, well, he shouldn't have got involved because we still gonna be together.
And this is the point I want to make. I know we're all advocates. I know we are, but there are some steps that we need to take. We can't just run out on our passion, even though I understand there are some steps that need to be taken. And once again, we can go back to the point. She has to want help. Sometimes, you know, that person, the victim, will turn on you.
Yeah, she did.
Right,
she
right,
right.
right.
So you have to have the right tools. Got to be able to know and not just think with your passion. Take some steps to do the right thing so you can also, so your safety is important as well.
Can I interject?
Yolanda?
Yeah, can I interject?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yolanda, then Lisa.
I just want to say that I have witnessed this, and I've been that bystander. And what I do, I call the police, I find a place and watch and keep my eye on it. But it is not, we are not trained as certified domestic violence advocates to intervene in those situations. Because not only can we put our own selves in more danger, but we can also put the victim in more danger.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Amen.
we do not intervene in those situations. Like I said, I call the police and I keep an eye out. And if I see where maybe that person stepped away or whatever, and she might be walking with her, because this has happened, and I see her walking by herself or something, then I will, just let her know, as like, are you okay? But that's it. Okay. That's a very dangerous situation to get into. And we want to protect ourselves, but we also want to protect the victim. And don't make it, because that abuser will get angry that a person intervened, and then they're going to be even more angry. Okay. I'm thankful. That's how I got out. Actually, my last encounter, with my abuser, two men intervened and ran, and he took off running like the coward that he was. And so I was blessed in that. But I'm just thankful. But I would not suggest that for anybody to actually physically intervene. I actually saved a young lady who lived next door to me, and I just secretly call. I actually, back in the day, I didn't even have a phone in my house. There was a pay phone, so I tried to come out my house to go to the pay phone. He came up. He saw me going to the pay phone, so he knew what I was about to do. He confronted me, and I went back in my house, and then I slipped out the back door and called the police. So yeah, so I don't want anybody to not to intervene, but I also don't want people to be afraid to look out, because when some people will hear this and be like, oh, well, no, I ain't getting involved in that. I'm gonna mind my business. Please call the police. If you don't do nothing else, just call the police. That's all I ask to do.
But I think it goes back to, I'm sorry, Lisa, I think it goes back to the community is not educated. They don't know what to do. What they know to do is to mind their business and keep quiet and not be a snitch. What these young people today are saying, snitches get stitches. So somehow there has to be some type of avenue or some type of outlet to say, if you see domestic violence or if you see somebody, blah, 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 do this. But they got all these 1-800 numbers where if you see a gun or take take your old medicine to this place and that place, take your eyeglasses to the whatever. But where is the community? How are they know? Where do they know that? What do they know to do? Where do they go? Can you, do you think they're going to Google and say, okay, what do you do if somebody's getting slapped? But there's
Have
no
you guys-
outlet
Call
anywhere.
911. Call 911. That's it.
Have you guys heard or seen the TikTok video? It came out about 3 years ago of the young lady who called 911 and ordered a pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She ordered the pizza. She gave him her address. He finally figured it out and sent a police officer to her house. But there are ways, there are clever ways. There's no clear-cut answer to that question, but there are ways to alert authorities without putting yourself in harm's way. So we're gonna go to Miss Lisa because she was supposed to be next.
Oh, it's okay. It's always very important that we as advocates and even non-advocates assess situations.
Yes.
You have to know when you're looking at a person, whether they're stable and unstable. And that's easy. Most of us on this line tonight can look at a person and tell if he or she is an abuser. I can look right at a person and tell off the spot if they are a victim or an abuser. It's just that trained eye. It's just that body language. You just know. And also, like I said, you don't want to do anything that's ever going to put yourself in harm's way, or also cause more harm to the victim. My sister is no longer here because of that. She didn't know the avenues to take. She told her husband that she was leaving, she was tired, and he came back home. He locked the children in the closet and he killed her. And then he threatened the children that he would kill them if they ever told. Yeah. Also, I wanted to piggyback on something that Robin said that always sticks out for me. We as advocates at one point in our lives who have been victims of domestic violence, we must realize that when we are victims, our children are victims too. Just because an abuser is not beating on a child, just because an abuser isn't cussing a child out, just because an abuser isn't mistreating a child, your child is a victim of domestic violence. So we are raising children in our households to either be one, victims or abusers. That's why it's so easy for us to get into these relationships without us unconsciously knowing. I've worked with several individuals who've reached out to me and say, hey, can you help my son? Hey, can you help my daughter? And the first thing I always do is I say, I want to talk to you first. And then I want to talk to whoever you want me to talk to separately without you. And then oftentimes what I always find out is that it started right at home. Well, what do you expect? Why do you think that your daughter or your son think it's okay to be cursed out or beat up? They watch you do it to their mom or their dad, or, someone out on the street. So, and that's why I always ask to speak with that individual alone. I've had a gentleman before say, no, I want you to meet with that. No, because I knew that he had something to hide. But I have a certification in helping those with mental illness, and we have to, it's a slippery slope. I have a neighbor right now who is being brutally abused, and I will not get involved because I know that her life is at stake and so is mine. If I call the police, I may wind up dead.
So how do you do this? I mean, Now that brought up the thin line for me right there. I'm gonna say two
Mhm.
things. I'm
Mhm.
gonna say two things about that. So I
Mhm.
want to speak to the person that don't have that trained eye like you do, who may get involved with somebody and couldn't tell that he was an abuser. Because I've been there. I've been there, where I didn't know, because they were so good at that honeymoon phase, and whining and dining and making you feel good. And it looked like a regular courtship until you got involved. I told you I have a play about domestic violence. The leading lady had married a preacher, and she didn't know. He whined her, he dined her, he did all of those things to her and for her. And on her honeymoon night, he beat her. Honeymoon night.
Mhm. But you
Okay.
know what? That's
So
because she was so busy being honeymooned and groomed and treated like
yes,
a
but
queen.
sometimes
There
it
are
looks the
always red
same.
flags. There are always red flags. And sometimes we ignore those red flags because we want somebody to buy us flowers, or we want someone to buy us that nice purse, we want somebody to do this and that. But there are always red flags. I guarantee you he said something to her or him prior to the beating taking place during the honeymoon.
Right.
This
Lisa,
is
let
the
me jump
point
in.
I
May
want
I
to
jump
make.
in?
And then
Oh,
gonna,
yes,
excuse me,
yes.
1 second. This is the point I want to make. If you get into it, if you didn't recognize it before, you still have a way out. Don't stay in it because you didn't recognize it beforehand and you blame yourself because you said, I should have known. I could have, what did I miss? When you recognize that you are in it, you still have a way out. Don't stay because of guilt.
Yes, man.
Please,
May
please,
I
please,
interject here?
oh,
Thank you, Yolanda. I'll wait.
please.
I'll wait.
I
Go
just
ahead,
I'll
gotta
wait.
say
Yolanda.
this, but we have to be careful. We cannot. That the question is always, why doesn't she just leave? And so we have to
Yes.
be
Exactly.
very careful
Yes.
about telling people to leave, because
Yes.
50 to 75% of domestic murders happen after a woman
They
Yes.
or
leave.
person leaves.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That is the
Yes, yes.
most
Most
dangerous
dangerous.
time for a
Yes.
Yes.
person. So we have to be very careful. We are taught, we don't tell people to leave. We give
Right.
people options. We give
Right.
them what's available to them and we give them options,
Yes.
but we
Right.
do not tell or force a person to
Absolutely.
leave.
Yes.
And
And
then we
if
make
there is a
sure,
firearm in the house, it actually escalates the chances of an individual being murdered by 500%. You
Yes,
never
it
tell a
says that
person to
right
leave.
here.
And you know what? And you never tell a victim to change their behavior. You need to make sure that if you're helping them, you're telling them to do everything normal like you've been doing it.
have a
Because
safety
abusers know
Right.
plan, a
when you're up
safety
to
plan.
something. You
Oh,
never do that.
let me
Never.
let me chime in real quick.
Absolutely. I
I'm
wanted to chime in with, I'm sorry, with piggyback on what you were saying, Lisa. Yes, there are signs, but I personally, my
Mhm.
father was phenomenal. When I tell you he treated my mother like a queen, he
Mhm.
treated my mother like a queen.
Oh
And
yeah.
my father was always, he lived by, you do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So I was this very forgiving person. So I accepted that I'm sorry, I'm not going to do
Mhm.
it anymore. So yes, there were some signs, but I did not know how to recognize the signs.
Right.
The
Right.
very first sign was I had gone out with my girlfriends. Let's say all of us had gone out together. And you know how you put your little hand on your hip and you take a picture. And it was like 5 girls in the picture. He took and balled the picture up. And I'm looking at him like, whoa, why would you ball up my picture? That's a nice, cute picture. But he was crazy and he was jealous, but I had no idea. So I didn't think, now clearly that was a sign, but I didn't recognize that as a sign. I kind of overlooked it as, oh, we just had a bad day.
Right.
Okay,
So that's
advocates.
what, that's why when I do Mended Wings, I talk about how to recognize the signs, because if you've never been exposed to the signs, how do you know how to recognize?
What
That's
are the
so true.
signs? What are the signs? One is isolation, but come on, talk to it. Let's educate whoever's on here who may not
One
understand the
one
signs.
of
Oh,
one
and we
of
want,
your very
I just,
first. One of the
Extreme
very first signs for
jealousy.
me
Wait a
is
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute.
moving too fast. Moving too
Yes.
fast.
Yes. Extreme jealousy. Oh, I just
Yes.
love you. Oh, I just want it to be me and you.
Absolutely.
Oh, all of that. You know, no.
If it's
My
too
friends
good to be
Yolanda?
true,
Yolanda?
There
It
you go,
is.
Yolanda.
if it's
Believe it.
too good to be
Wait a minute,
true,
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yolanda, go ahead.
if it's too good to be true, it usually is. And we
Is.
also have,
Amen.
and Maya Angelou said, when they show you who they are the first time,
Believe.
believe them.
Believe them.
Believe them.
them.
But we want to be careful that we do not blame victims, because some of us, the person that I got with, I didn't know, because I didn't know, I had never been in an abusive
Right.
relationship. I didn't
Exactly.
see my father be an abuser, or
Right.
my grandfather, or anything like that. So I did not know
Right.
that that's who he was, until all of a sudden he just turned into this person. So a lot of women do not
This
know.
demon.
They do not know, because they
Right.
are very good manipulators. They are actors. They are
Yes.
Academy Award winners.
Mhm.
All right, April.
I wanted to go back to what you guys were talking about when you said you wouldn't tell a survivor or victim to leave. I'm gonna disagree with that and say I'm gonna tell them to leave, but leave with a plan.
Mhm.
I would never, ever, as long as I'm breathing, tell a victim to stay. But what I
Well,
will,
I don't say
but-
stay. I'm not telling them to stay.
Hold on.
but what I will say is that you definitely have to have a plan in place. You
Mhm.
definitely can't just teach them the steps, which is you don't tell your abuser you're leaving. That's first and foremost. And you don't tell
Right.
you could tell them that you're going to leave, but there has to be
Right.
a plan in place. But again, they have to be taught that. And then secondly,
Mhm.
what we're talking about is we don't know the warning signs. And it goes back to us teaching the community and society about the warning signs, not just the red flags, but what about the warning yellow signs come before the red flag? We're not being taught that. So many of us, and I'm not going to put male or I'm not going to just say females. I'm going to say so many of us singles. Okay, I'm not going to say the married folks, but so many of us singles, we have been desperate for relationship. We have been looking for love in all the wrong places. And so because we don't have the warning signs, we don't have the yellow flags, we don't know what the red flags are, we haven't been taught what a healthy relationship is, we don't know what a boundary is. So most people are stuck. So it goes
Who
back
teaches that?
and that's where I was going. If we're not educating the community and society about healthy relationships and what boundaries are and what domestic violence is or partner abuse or whatever we're calling it these days, if it is not being taught and nobody knows anything about anything, we're going to keep accepting it. And then my last point I wanted to share that I hope we could talk about tonight is, how are we helping the abuser? Because all of us got out, but did the abuser get help? So
Yes.
we got out for him to go do it to somebody else. When is the community going to start helping the abuser so that it can stop? Because we got out, but if the abuser is still abusing, then it just stopped with us. He just moved on to the next and the next and the next. There has to be some type of education and some type of programs out here that's going to help the abuser and the family, because we got out, but our children are still stuck emotionally.
Exactly.
Counseling is not being talked about, and there's hardly no, I'm not saying there aren't any, but there are no programs out here for the abuser to get so he can unlearn his behavior. Sometimes it is mental, sometimes it's just they just mean and nasty. But again, where is the help going to the abuser other than snatch him out, send him to jail? They have to take a mandatory 8-hour anger management.
Anger management.
Right.
And so that didn't help them. So again, there's a lot of steps that has to take before this epidemic is going to stop. And it starts with us. Yes, we got to keep doing this, because I'm sure somebody is on this line tonight, or they'll go back and watch the replay, and they're going to hear something. So what we're saying is not going to be in we're doing it. Right, that's the word I was looking for. I'm sorry. We're not doing it in vain, but there's still other steps that we got to take as advocates, as survivors, to say, you know what, we got to do more and more and more. But again, I don't know how, but I want Angels Haven at some point to also visit that, to let's help the abuser. Let's help everybody in the family that went through abuse. And we also got to talk about the steps. We got to talk about the warning signs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of these things are not being talked about.
Let's flip
April,
the script right here.
I only know.
Hold on one second, Lisa. Let's flip the script right now, because we got about 15-20 minutes. So we need to talk about resources. The resources, if you have resources, let's talk about it. And I'm going to give you one right now. There is one program, and I don't know if they do it nationally, but it's here in North Carolina. It's called IMPACT. IMPACT. It's a batterer prevention program. It deals with the abuser. IMPACT. And I will put their website in the chat. So let's talk about resources. Let's give folks a way, or at least a starting point. We know about the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Let's talk about resources, how we can put some resources out there to help.
Okay, and I think I know one here in the metropolitan area for the men, and it's called Adams House. I think Adams House is one of the resources for men. I know the House of Ruth is nationwide. That is a resource. I know that Mended Wings is a resource. I know Sister4Sister is a resource. I know Angels Haven Incorporated is a resource. And if you get connected to, and this is for those who are on the line listening, or who will tune in later. If you get connected with some of the resources that I just mentioned, they will know how to get you in contact with whatever you need, whether it be legal aid, whether it be shelter, whether it be finances, whether it be a program or a class. These organizations, and we have other ladies on the line also that have organizations that I'm hoping are going to chime in, but maybe we can put them in the chat for those who are on Zoom now. But there's some churches out here that are definitely have domestic violence ministries. First Baptist Church of Glen Arden. I know Kingdom Fellowship AME, which is where I attend. We offer a Healing Wounds of Trauma class that definitely advocates for domestic violence, grief, any type of trauma that you've gone through. We have a class. I'm actually a certified facilitator, and I teach one of those classes. I know the Fellowship Center has a domestic violence ministry. So there are a lot of resources in the DMV for those who are in the DMV that can assist you with whatever you need, whether it be shelter, whether it be money to get out, whether it be a support groups. I do a support group once a month, and there's several ladies on this line that if you reach out to either one of us, I'm quite sure we can lead you into the right direction, to talk to you about the warning signs, to talk to you about, the escape plan, because that is very important. Yes, you leave, but have an escape plan before you leave, because you have to know the steps. Yes, you want to get out, but you want to get out safe and alive. And so just reaching out to the ladies on this line, contacting Sisters4Sisters. They have a wealth of information. Every person on this line can assist you, and you do not have to suffer in silence. You do not have to stay in an abusive situation no longer than you have to. And sometimes it's not about, well, I want to leave. Okay, I wanted to leave also, but I had to get up enough courage to leave. And a lot of people that stay in domestic violence, they're afraid, not afraid of leaving, but afraid of the unknowing. Some people are, their only source of income is their abuser. And they stay because they don't know if they're going to survive out here without that abuser. So we have to first love ourselves enough to say, you know what? My mother-in-law told me when I had enough, I would know. She never told me to leave. She told her advice to me was, when you've had enough, you will know. But how do you know what enough is? So anybody listening on this line, any one of these ladies, any one of the organizations that was mentioned from myself and from Miss Yolanda and Lisa, there are plenty of resources. There are plenty of resources, and it's not like that was 20 years ago where we didn't know.
Okay.
We're out here.
And I say,
Miss Yolanda.
yes, I want to say we have to understand that people are in different areas. And so you might have plenty of resources in the MD, but there are not plenty of resources here in the Philadelphia area. We
I
need
understand.
to know, in Philadelphia, a city of 1.6 million people, there are only 200 beds that are designated for domestic violence. Okay. Oftentimes, it is very frustrating. We will have the women call the domestic violence hotline, and they're told that there's no room. They have to continue to call over and over and again. And so there need to be more resources. We need to get our cities to give more resources, because here in the Philadelphia, trust me, I'm talking to people every day, and often these women don't have anywhere to go. There aren't resources, and a lot of the organizations, like the organization that I'm with, we're a small organization. We don't have a physical building, so we're out here collaborating and giving resources, but we don't have a physical building yet. We hope to be able to provide transitional housing and that kind of thing, but there are not a lot of resources. And so it's very important for when we say, why doesn't she just leave? And the reason why I'm saying that sometimes in those situations, it's not the best thing to tell them to leave at that time. They need to, like they said, have a plan first and make sure that it's safe and that they have somewhere to go. Oftentimes people don't want to go to their family. They don't want to put their family in danger. Oftentimes people have children, and when you're married and you have children, you cannot legally just walk up and walk out with them kids. He can say you kidnapped the kids. So it's a lot of illegal issues as well. So before we do that, make sure that you talk to a domestic violence organization. Like here in Philadelphia, we have Women Against Abuse. If you call the domestic violence hotline, you'll be connected to the other DV organizations. But even this, here's a perfect example. Another lady I have, she got a voucher to get housing. But how about this? There's no housing. There's no housing. She can't even get the housing, even though she has the voucher.
And I think we're all facing that in every area. Transitional housing, shelters are full. Yes. I think we all can relate to that. And there are no clear-cut solutions to this mega, I want to call it a pandemic, there are so many steps and so many components, but the thing that we have to remember is that we got to keep trying, because it may take a while, but if we keep chipping at that mountain, eventually it has to fall.
Right.
I just believe that.
So can I share about a program that specifically helps abusers? And I only know of one in the Washington metropolitan area, and that's my sister, Queen Afee. Domestic violence wears many tags. Yes. Queen is also a mental health specialist, and she is certified in doing just that, helping the abuser. Also, there's a gentleman by the name of Troy Jones, and I know he is on Facebook, and he is an advocate for men, as well as one of our dear sisters, Charvette Stark, who's on Facebook, and she's an advocate for men, because I never want to be in a setting where we leave our men and boys out ever. They suffer just as, worse as we do oftentimes as girls and women. So we never want to leave them out. As far as resources, we also have to keep in mind that because of the pandemic, there's just such a lack of resources now. You used to be able to go to a safe space or haven for just those who are victims of domestic violence, but now they've sort of looped everything in together. So you may be in the shelter where they cater to mental illness and homelessness and lots of other things, and you just may not be safe. But I agree so wholeheartedly with my sister April, where I'm not one to just tell a victim to leave, because I know what it does. I see what it did to my sister. I was on the phone with my sister at 9 p.m. By 10, she was dead. So we do, as advocates, we want to make sure that we are up to date on training and certifications. We want to make sure that we stick together, because oftentimes, sadly, can be such a oh boy,
cutthroat.
it can. I don't want to say that, but yes, in a sense. But we have to understand that we are in this together. We are in this for a purpose, our calling, and there's someone that God strategically set for each of us to help. So it doesn't have to be a competition. We have to be in this thing together. And also, something that's more important to me, to help in our community, our victims, as well as our survivors and thrivers and conquerors, is that we have to remain open and transparent. I can't help you if I'm not telling you my story. Oh yeah, I was a victim of domestic violence. You have to be able to get down and dirty and tell them what you went through and where you came from. Down and dirty. Transparency is the only way that we are going to help anyone. Truth and transparency. And that may not fit for everyone. It just may not. But we also have to make sure that we're getting the trainings that we need, the support that we need, the certifications that we need. Because sometimes, what I think all of us have found is that in this realm of work, some people just say, well, I want to be an advocate because I lost my friend, or I lost my cousin, or I lost my sister or my mom, without really understanding what it entails. And if I can ever do anything to help any of you all, please reach out to me, whatever it is that I can do. But I love that, Vicki, when you say we can chip back this mountain and this onion layer, just one piece and one layer at a time. It can be done. It can be, but it cannot be done if the abuser does not get the help that they need.
True. So this is what I want you ladies to do. We got about 10 more minutes. And so I'm going to give each one of you the platform, because I want your voice to be heard. So each one of you got 3 minutes. Starting with, since she started, April. But one thing I did want to say before we go there, and we didn't touch on this, and that's pastors have to be trained too, because biblical counseling is not the same. You don't use the same techniques that you would use if you're dealing with domestic violence. You don't put the 2 people in the room, try to counsel them together, because that could cause more harm. So everybody needs training on domestic violence tools and techniques, okay? So is there something burning you have to say before we get to our 3 minutes? Everybody, I want everybody to have a voice and to be heard, and make sure that you put out what you need to put out tonight. Well, I wish we could solve this whole issue tonight, but it's just impossible to do it all tonight. Wouldn't it be great if we just could come together like this and the solution be, oh, we got it, we got it. But unfortunately, it's not like that, but we're not going to give up. So let's go first. Let's go, Lisa. You got 3 minutes.
I honestly, the only advice that I can give to anyone who may be going through domestic violence at this time, and even if you're a survivor or a thriver or a conqueror, you're not alone. Don't ever think that you're alone. It's not your fault. Don't ever think that it's your fault. Know when to use your voice and know when to keep quiet. It's very important that you surround yourself with someone who's gone through the same thing. It's more important too, also though, that you remember that when you surround yourself with someone who's been through the same thing, that your healing is not going to look the same. Although most of us have gone through the same things, we deal with things differently. We're not going to all heal at the same time. We're not going to all feel like, we're beautiful queens all the time. So remember, Lisa's healing is not going to look like Wendy's healing or April's healing or Mary healing or Michelle's or Carolyn's or Miss Edwards, Valerie's, Robin, Shirley, Yolanda, Vicky. It's not going to look the same. And sometimes that's where we get caught up, because we want so desperately what the other person has. And also remember that healing is a lifelong journey. It's a journey, just like grieving. Some of us on this call, we've lost loved ones to domestic violence. It's a journey. I lost my sister 30 years ago, and sometimes it hurt just like it was yesterday. But there's so many components to that as well. So just remember those things. And more importantly, overall too, get to know yourself through healing. Get to know yourself, love yourself, date yourself. Look in the mirror and say, girl, you are beautiful. Or man, you are handsome. Love yourself. And if you want to confront an abuser and just tell them how they made you feel, you can just write a letter and burn it. Or you can write them a letter if you are comfortable going face to face or having a meeting with them. Write yourself a letter, but just let it out. And just remember, healing is a process. It's a process. It's a lifelong journey. It's going to be good days and it's going to be bad days. We're all here tonight in our beautiful purple, but I'm telling you right now, it was a struggle for me to get on this call this evening. Because I was just going through, I was going through, but remember, you're not alone. And your voice is your power. Your voice is your power, and your story is yours. Own it. Walk in it. Thank you.
Shirley, do you have anything to say?
This was absolutely beautiful. I am tired, y'all, but I couldn't miss it. And I'm so glad I have been enriched. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for sharing.
All right. That was Miss Robin, right?
Yes.
Miss Shirley, you have anything to say?
Good evening. Are you speaking to Shirley Evans?
Yes, I am. That's who I see on this. Is that you?
Yes, that's me. Good evening to all of the beautiful ladies here. And I would like to say that I've never lived through or had to live through a domestic violence relationship or live in that lifestyle. However, I've lost several family members to domestic violence. And I'm a life coach and I work with women. I'm working with someone right now. And when I first started working with her, she didn't realize that she was being abused. She's, often talked about how her husband pays all the bills. And just recently I helped her understand. The question was, I said, did you ever help out with the bills? And she said, yes, I did. But one day he said to me, because it's something that happened, I don't want you to pay bills anymore. And what happened was, I'm going to say this and stop. what happened was he asked her to stop paying all the bills. So she feels that her husband is paying all the bills because he's a good provider. But I'm, working with her to help her understand that he no longer wants her to pay any of the bills because he wants to be in power and control everything. So I just want to say to you ladies, keep up the great work. I came on because of my dear friend, Yolanda Jennings. I'm so super proud of her. Proud of all the ladies that are here. You ladies are doing amazing work. And I'm walking away with, I'm taking a whole lot away. All of you were fantastic. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. Not Lisa, April.
Hi, my takeaway for tonight would be the only way to heal emotional trauma of abuse, two things: Jesus and counseling. I can only tell you what worked for me. And I didn't get counseling until probably 15 years later after I left my husband. And I believe had I got some counseling early on, and my children, that trauma and that emotional healing would have happened long before my 50s. And so my suggestion would be, get closer to the Lord, but don't just pray. Don't just pray, absolutely pray. But you have to get yourself in some type of counseling.
Absolutely.
Support groups. And just like Miss Shirley, life coaches, people that can walk with you in this journey so that you can know that you are not alone. But you have to learn that, and you have to unlearn abuse, because what a new phrase I heard yesterday was a trauma bond. You get connected to people that are in trauma. Hurt people. And when we are hurting, we are attracting other hurt people. Sometimes that might, you got to change your circle. That means you might have got to eliminate some people and some stuff that's in your life. And that will be my takeaway tonight.
That's very good. Counseling is so important. So important. Miss Wendy.
Good evening, ladies. Good evening. This has been absolutely a blessing. Thank you, April, for inviting me. She is one super inviter. She invites you to everything she participates in. And thank you, Miss Vicky, for hosting and for providing such a platform. I'd like to say to the ladies that each spoke, you all were absolutely on target. It's all about speaking our own truths, and you all spoke your truth. I do want to agree with Lisa and say, your story is your story and my story is my story. My story was not physical as much as it was mental and emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And the wounds that exist are real, especially when you're engaged with your little people. So I walked away with 2 babies in the middle of the night. And when I walked away, yes, my children were abused. They were babies, but they endured the relationship between mom and dad as we were sharing custody according to the state of New Jersey. We had to share custody. Therefore, my children continued to be in the midst of the abuse. I got them away at age 7 months and almost 2, but they endured. And so 30 years later, we are survivors, and we had gotten away.
Amen.
Unfortunately, their dad has passed away, but before he passed away, he said some things to me which were helpful. I had previously said things and told him I forgave him, but I was not going to expose my children to unfair living conditions. It was not acceptable, and they were not deserving of that. And so when I walked away with 2 babies in the middle of the night, I didn't know what it was going to look like, because as much as we should have a plan, yes, we should, April, I was trying to have a plan, but when you have to go, you have to go. So when I left, I hadn't gotten my plan together, but I was grateful enough to have people in my corner to be there for me when in fact I needed support. And so I want to say to each and every one of you, continue to do the work that you are doing. We are on this journey together. And I like to say that in the beginning, we were victims, then we became survivors, then we have become conquerors. And today I'm so grateful. I'm grateful only to God and to all the persons he put in my space to allow me to now be an overcomer. And so when I speak about overcoming, I'm overcoming only by the grace of God.
Absolutely.
I'm overcoming only because he's allowed me to put in the past where I've been and to release me to move forward. So I'm moving forward, And I'm grateful to be in a 25-year relationship with my husband, who has treated me like the queen that I deserve to be treated.
Woo-hoo.
So we celebrated our anniversary in June. And ladies, yes, I feel like an overcomer because I'm now able to speak my truth. I'm able to share. I began my ministry over the years, but I began my formal ministry in February 22 of 22. And I'm so excited to have people like April on the journey with me. And you ladies, today I've met you all and we're on this journey together. And I say to you, we are overcomers because we are
Thank you.
choosing to make a difference and to help someone come
Amen.
behind us. Be
Quick
blessed,
question.
ladies.
Thank you so much.
And Robin,
So next we'll
Robin.
have
Thank you.
Miss
Quick-
Yolanda. Miss Yolanda.
Vicky, I got one question for Wendy. Is there something in place with Mary Kay if a survivor, if a survivor wants to get out? I feel like I've heard this before and I kind of need that information for somebody that I'm working with. So I'm asking the question here because I think this is the platform for it. Does Mary Kay offer assistance if a survivor needs to get out? And that was my question.
Mary Kay has what we call the Mary Kay Foundation. And thank you, April. I didn't choose to speak on it, but yet it's important to speak on it. It's not that we have a place for the person to go as much as Mary Kay provides. Out of all the 50 states, Mary Kay provides resources and grants for each state. And unfortunately for me, I'm in New Jersey. And although each state gets one, at least one, we get 3. So we got a real problem here in Jersey, okay? So we are working on this thing, but in the Mary Kay Foundation, I'd like to say that Mary Kay has 2 causes that she supports in the foundation. All research efforts that support all cancers that affect women, and also grants for women of domestic violence. And so I'm so grateful for those 2 causes. That's where my heart is. My mom died of cancer. I was in Mary Kay before mommy passed. And I was in Mary Kay after having walked away 20 years from my domestic violence experience in my marriage. But Mary Kay does have products that we purchase throughout the year. And as we purchase the products, we talk about Pink Lives Matter. And in our Pink Lives Matter campaign, some of the money goes towards the foundation. And so, yes, I'm beginning to do the work, April, to be an ambassador of the foundation, to be able to make a difference in the lives of many. So thank you for putting the plug in for me, Miss April. And yes, I could have put my Mary Kay email in there. I can put my website in there. But yes, Mary Kay has the foundation and we absolutely do need each and every person. If it's only a lipstick or a lip gloss that someone buys, everybody can make a difference in the lives of those with cancer and those with domestic violence.
Thank
Be
you,
blessed,
Wendy,
ladies.
so much for that information. Miss Yolanda, you're on mute. You're on mute.
All right, sorry about that. So I just want to say, there's a saying I'm in an organization again called Purple House Project PA, and that's purplehouseprojectpa.org. And our founder came up with the saying that says, say it, even if your voice shakes. I may not, some people may not have, one of the things that I had to learn to love myself and to understand that everybody has their own personal gifts. And for me, a lot of times I feel insecure in certain situations because, I don't have all these degrees and all this kind of stuff. And I just wanted to encourage others to understand that the gifts that God has for you are your gifts. And there are going to be people that you can reach that other people can't reach. And there are going to be other people that can reach somebody that you can't reach. But regardless, your voice matters no matter where you've been, no matter how much money you have, or any of that. I want you to be encouraged to use your voice. Get involved in organizations, volunteer your time. That's another thing. I started volunteering. My first domestic violence awareness walk I was homeless and I was in a shelter. And I began volunteering. And oftentimes, even if that isn't any education in and of itself, get out here, volunteer your time. We got Google. We can look up, use Google, use all the resources that are out here and available to you to educate yourself. Okay, because oftentimes you might not be able to afford the $450 that it costs to become a certified advocate or whatever. It took me 10 years to finally become certified. And so just educate yourself. Read all you can read. There's a website called domesticshelters.org. Again, that's domesticshelters.org. That is an excellent resource with all kinds of information, stories, resources, places to go, articles, infographics. It's a great resource. So, and oftentimes, even doing social media, I'm a social media manager. You can do stuff like put in a hashtag that says domestic violence. And you can put that hashtag in, and it's going to pull up all kind of posts. There are groups even on Facebook that you can join to be able to talk to people that have experienced some of the same things that you had. But use your voice, don't give up. And again, like the founder says, say it, even if your voice shakes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's great information. Now, the other ladies that are on here, I don't want to put you on the spot unless you want to talk. The other ones I just called out because I'm not really sure what your position is on here. So if there's anyone else who want to share before we close out, feel free to do it at this time, and then I'll turn it back over to Carolyn. Any of the other ladies would like to? Okay, so
Hello.
thank you. Go ahead,
Hello.
Val. Okay, all right. Is
Hi.
that Valaria? Is that how you pronounce your name?
It's Valeria.
Good night,
Valeria?
everyone.
Yes. Good
Hi.
evening, ladies. It's been an absolute joy listening to everyone. I've been very encouraged. Just listening to the stories and how everyone has overcome and how you're encouraging and just triumphant in domestic violence. I want to say to us all, don't forget the children. Don't forget the little ones. So many times domestic violence is focused on the adults, the woman or the man, but the little ones that are there, they're absorbing a lot. And so many times they go to school and the teachers, the principals, the counselors, they're asking the questions, what is wrong with this child? This child is having problems. This child is always acting out. That's the wrong question. The question to ask is what is happening to this child? What's going on in this child's life? Children respond so differently to trauma. They act out in many different ways. So I want to encourage us to not forget the children and to know that they need counseling as well as much love and to be sheltered from all of this. So let's not forget the children and to be encouraged to get them whatever they need. And if we can encourage someone to get out safely or encourage them to get a plan to get out, let's do so. Domestic violence is all over the place. Sometimes I think people feel that I'm alone. This is only happening to me. No one else has experienced this. I'm afraid to even tell anyone this because, girl, you're gonna think I'm crazy. No one would believe me if I tell them what I'm actually going through, that I haven't eaten in 3 days or a week because I had to feed my children, or he's done this to me. So don't forget the little ones. And, most of all, that the person who is in the situation be mindful that they are afraid. And yes, they do need help. They do need grace. And sometimes they do want to get out, but they just don't know how to ask. And especially if they are not from the area, they've come, the person who they've come to live with, they're coming from their home area to this person's home area. They have no family, no friends. Of course, they're very afraid. Why should I leave? You know, where am I going to go? And especially if they have more than one child. I have 5 kids. Who's going to take me and my 5 children? And why would they do that for me? So let's just be mindful of these things. And again, I really enjoyed the conversation. I think that we just need to continue our assignments and continue to be vigilant, continue to be everywhere that we can. And that's
Thank
all
you
I have.
so much. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for those awesome comments. I really, really appreciate it. And so I can speak for the ladies, we all do. Thank you so much. All right. Anyone else before we close out?
To add to what Valeria said, and Valeria, you hit the nail on the head. We absolutely must not forget about the children.
Right.
And what I encourage people to do, because I chose to and people disagreed, but I had a choice. And my choice was to make sure that my young men, being African-American young men in New Jersey, not to be labeled as a child that has a problem. So I chose to talk with my children's teachers. I chose to tell the truth. I chose to speak up and say, when they went away with their dad for the weekend, when they came back, please give my children grace. They were in elementary school. But if you don't speak to the teachers and you don't speak to the white administrators, they'll look at your little black boy and think he's a problem. So when I spoke with them, interestingly enough, they said to me, we don't even understand what you're saying because we have not seen any behavior. But what I did learn when they came back from visiting with their dad over the weekend, and they had monthly visits if he honored them, they came back very quiet. They came back very non-participatory in school. Unacceptable behavior for an active child. So I said to the teachers in advance, this is what I perceive may happen. Please let me know what you experience. So I feel comfortable to say it's important that we be honest and be authentic and talk to the people that spend time with our babies. Let them know what's going on in the family. And if you're not telling too much of your business, you can let them know so that they can support you along the journey. And I also live with teachers. My husband and my son are teachers. It's important, and we talk about talking with the governmental officials and the people in law enforcement. We need to speak with our teachers. We need to help them to embrace what does it look like to be able to open a little person up to find out what's going on in their heart. And so I think the work is so much to do, ladies, but we must not forget to engage our teachers. Thank you, Valeria. I think that was on point, and I just couldn't hold back because my babies are thriving young men saved by grace and are living a wonderful life in society. And so I'm grateful for that. But it's because I embraced the truth. And Lisa said it, and I think Yolanda said it as well. We just have to be open, honest, keep it real, be raw, and I say be authentic.
Thank you.
Love
for
you,
those
ladies.
words.
It's been phenomenal.
Thank you.
I appreciate you all so much. This has been
And
great.
I thank you all for being so participatory and for being so open and transparent and so informative. And it has been my pleasure to be your Oprah tonight. I put some notes in if you don't know how, please save the chat so you can get that information. You can keep that information. Yeah. If just if you hit save the chat, it's 3 little buttons down there and it will save it to your computer so that you will have all that information that's in the chat. Also on Facebook, I did put some of the organizations that we mentioned, domestic violence, wear many tags. I put that in the comments as well. So everybody should have some resources. Thank you so much, Miss Carolyn. Hope that you feel better. Very soon, we are praying you will be on my on my prayer list tonight, that you will be restored to fullness. You got work to do. You don't have no time to be messing around with some foolishness, sickness. So we pray that you are restored to full health. So I want to, if you want to speak now, I can turn it back over to you. And I am done. All right. Miss Carolyn. So maybe I could just close it out. And we just gonna close it out. Thank you. This has been a great event, and I hope to see you all again next year. And don't forget, somebody already said it, domestic violence just don't occur. Domestic violence observation just doesn't occur in October. We got a whole 365 days to work on it. So thank you so much. Good night.
And you guys support Carolyn next Saturday. Check out her Facebook page. She has a whole bunch of stuff going on this month. The walk, the breakfast next Saturday. I think she has another talk going on this month. I'm having a brunch next Sunday. So you guys, let's support each other. Let's put it in the chat if you guys have things coming up that are in the DMV. I would love to support. If you need me, I'm here. I love you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. You're beautiful and fearfully and wonderfully made. And I can't wait to see and work with you guys again. Love you all. Carolyn, feel better.
Real quick, I forgot to mention Purple House Project PA in Philadelphia. We are going to be having a walk on October the 29th in North Philly. Y'all can follow me on Facebook, Yolanda Jennings, and I'll have all kind of information on that page, on my page.
Will do. In fact, if you guys feel like it, real quick, put it in the chat and then save your chat. You'll have everybody's information. I put mine in here already. I didn't put my Facebook, but I will put my Vicky, because my middle name is my Facebook. So there we go. All right.
All right.
Everybody got it in?
I'm putting it down.
All right. All right, there we go. Yes. All right, I'm saving my chat. I want everybody's information.
I can't see how to save this chat.
Okay, so if you go in the chat, there's 3 little dots. On mine anyway, there's 3 little dots.
I learned. Come on, girl.
Click on it.
Right beside the happy face. You see the happy face, and then
next.
Maybe it's because I'm on my phone.
Oh yeah, it's kind of hard to do on your phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can screenshot it real quick. You can scroll up and then screenshot it on your phone. Then you'll have all of it.
In fact, I tell you what I'll do. I'll screenshot your email and then I'll send you the chat.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, let me screenshot your email that you have here. And I'll send it to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Ladies,
You're welcome.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. I hope I didn't offend nobody. I get real emotional.
No, we all like that, sis. Look, we all like that. We passionate about what we do. We good. We're sisters.
Awesome.
All right, ladies. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.